bathroom products.
Coming up on First at 4, Senator Rand Paul visits Eastern Kentucky ahead of Tuesday's midterms. Plus, this election is breaking records for campaign spending.
Well, sunshine continued today, but we do have some changes on the way for later in the forecast. Breakdown on those coming up as First at 4 continues.
Mountain News First at 4 continues.
We are closely watching the U.S. Senate race in Kentucky with Republican incumbent Rand Paul and Democratic challenger Charles Booker. Paul and Booker are making stops across the Commonwealth today. WYMT's Dakota Maker has caught up with Senator Paul in one eastern Kentucky town where he spoke with supporters.
Kentucky's junior senator Rand Paul shook hands and took pictures with his supporters in Barbourville Friday morning, talking with them about impactful matters.
The number one thing we hear from people is price of gas, price of eggs, price of meat. It's really the inflation that's eroding people's savings. It's eroding their paycheck.
He says another concern from his supporters is the state of the economy.
I think, frankly, President Biden probably couldn't manage a 7-Eleven. He's never been involved in business, never written a check. He's been part of government the whole time. And really, most of the policies that they've been pushing are putting us farther into debt and making inflation worse.
Paul adds he believes the federal government should spend what money it gets in.
Instead, we bring in $4 trillion, but we spend $5 trillion, and nobody does the hard work of prioritizing what needs to be done first.
In Knox County, Dakota Makris, WYMT Mountain News.
We did speak with both Paul and Charles Booker. We'll have their last campaign messages to voters coming up tonight at 6. For Pikeville police officers, the morning started with a shocking call after an ambulance was stolen from Pikeville Medical Center. The call came in around 9 this morning when officers say 35-year-old Stephen Reynolds left the hospital and got into the driver's seat of an EMS ambulance before driving away. Reynolds was stopped in the Lick Creek area of Pike County by the school resource officer at East Ridge High School and taken to jail without incident. A quick action that Officer Tony Kahn says was only possible because of the deputy's help.
You need that because we don't want these people or these entities and these thieves and things, well, if I leave the city, then I'm good, I'm home free. Well, that's not going to work, and it hasn't worked, and today was a prime example of working together.
Kahn says no one was injured in the incident and the ambulance was not damaged as far as they could tell. We'll hear more about the call coming up at 6. After 3 months of cleaning up flood damage, Sexton's Used Cars in Whitesburg is reopening. New cars are lined up and down the parking lot, and locals are already purchasing them. A cause for celebration for the Sextons. Owner Debbie Sexton says it took days and nights of hard work to get to this point.
After a couple of months of really hard work and shoveling mud and scrubbing and painting and recarpeting and getting some different furniture, we have gotten the office back in shape.
The Sextons are also trying to keep their other business, Bluegrass Solar, working through mobile units. We'll have more tonight at 6. The 2022 Breeders' Cup races are underway in Lexington. Thousands of people have come to the Bluegrass for the big weekend. Spectators from Kentucky say celebrating traditions and horse racing here in Kentucky makes it special. Fans have come from places all around the world to be in Lexington for the big event.
And of course, just taking all the fun in and the excitement and the food and the drinks and having it.
Everyone else's clothes and everything. It's always a fun thing to look at.
The event runs through tomorrow evening. The winner of the Breeders' Cup will take home the grand prize of $6 million.
Well, it's not looked too bad out there at the Breeders' Cup up in Lexington as we started off this afternoon. We'll get breezy, though, a little bit later on tonight and into tomorrow as well. Upper 60s, the current reading. A little further to the east there at UVA-Y is not a cloud to be seen in southwest Virginia at this hour. Across the mountain in downtown Whitesburg, another beautiful scene there with plenty of sunshine in place. Upper 70s, how about Hazard taking the cake right now at 79 degrees. Yeah, it's warm out there, near 80 degrees. Many of us, though, middle and upper 70s. Winds out of the south helping fuel those temperatures up into the 5 to 10 mile per hour range, and that's what's getting us to near 80 this afternoon. We're all quiet here across the eastern third of the country, but you head over toward portions of the southern plains, and they're dealing with the beginning of what could be a rather significant tornado outbreak across portions of Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. So that's that same system that's heading in our way, though no severe weather expected. 75 at 5 o'clock, 64 by 9 with clear skies, but those showers will be, or the clouds at least, will be increasing by the early morning hours as we hold steady in the low 60s. Details on when some of those showers could return, that's in a few minutes. Steve?
Evan, thanks. Across the nation, candidates in this year's midterm elections are scrambling for support just days before voters go to the polls. With just 4 days to go, the candidates are cramming in events, especially in Pennsylvania, where that state's open Senate seat could help decide the balance of power in Washington. CBS News asked Democrat John Fetterman about voter concerns following his stroke in May.
I would say we have shown more and shared more kinds of medical evaluation, more than virtually anyone, unless you're running for the president.
With control of Congress at stake, more than 32 million Americans have voted early, either by mail or in person. Analysts say it will all come down to voter turnout as the parties make their final pitches leading up to Tuesday. By now, you're probably sick of all the campaign ads you see on television. It's all part of a record glut of spending on the 2022 midterm elections. CBS's Natalie Brand has more from Capitol Hill.
Under Democrat control, massive inflation, crime-ridden neighborhoods.
Airwaves overloaded with campaign ads, a sign of a fierce election season and inexpensive one.
It's like, really? Another ad for another legislative person? Really? How informative can that possibly be?
Spending on this election is projected to top $16.7 billion across federal and state races, including ballot measures, setting a new record for a midterm cycle, according to Open Secrets, a nonpartisan group that tracks the money.
It's campaign inflation.
Executive Director Sheila Krumholtz says one factor, the number of key open congressional seats up for grabs.
This cycle, we saw a huge leap in spending during the primaries.
The most expensive Senate races all top $100 million, including Georgia, Pennsylvania, Florida, Arizona, and Ohio. And that's just what the candidates spent.
We anticipate that we will trip the $2 billion mark for outside spending. That is money coming through super PACs and dark money organizations spending independently.
Issues have also attracted big dollars this midterm season, especially after the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. Planned Parenthood Votes says it's making a record investment of $50 million. On the other side, the Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America PAC says its budget is $78 million. And after a series of mass shootings, the Everytown for Gun Safety Political Action Committee has raised more than $18 million, while the NRA's Victory Fund has raised around $17.7 million. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Well, the good news is the election is almost over. The bad news is the next national election cycle is a presidential election, which usually sees even more spending and more campaign ads on your screens. And of course, here in Kentucky, we've got the gubernatorial election next year. It'll be here before you know it. A new intelligence bulletin warning of increased domestic terror threats have been sent out by federal agencies just ahead of the election. The memo was released coincidentally on the same day House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, was attacked at the couple's home in San Francisco last week. The FBI, Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Capitol Police, and National Counterterrorism Center announced a new warning for Americans. Be on the lookout for domestic extremists who could threaten candidates, election workers, and elected officials.
Bulletin is helpful, obviously, in that it puts these events on people's radars. But really, there's kind of two issues with that. Those are, I hate to sound sort of pessimistic, but are virtually impossible because you're almost playing whack-a-mole. You get one down and then another one pops up.
Election officials throughout the U.S. say they have been getting ready for both physical and cybersecurity concerns leading up to Election Day. House Republicans are in active discussions to immediately hit the ground running if they pick up seats after the midterm elections on Tuesday. If the GOP takes control of the House, they will target what has become one of their top priorities, investigating President Biden's son, Hunter Biden. Kentucky Congressman James Comer says he plans to resend a letter to the Treasury Department on Wednesday demanding the agency fork over any suspicious bank activity reports linked to Hunter Biden. Sources familiar with the matter say the following week, Comer and Congressman Jim Jordan of Ohio are planning a news conference laying out what they have already uncovered about Hunter Biden. Republicans are planning to focus in large part on the younger Biden's overseas business dealings as they try to link him to his father. But it remains to be seen what, if any, evidence they have uncovered. Coming up, as First at 4 continues, Twitter employees are facing mass layoffs just days after the $44 million takeover by Elon Musk.
Plus, continuing to watch the potential for showers to return to the forecast for part of the weekend. Details on when coming up.
WYMT News.